Will private equity ruin sports? My friends, the Barbarians are at the gate. The Barbarians are not only at the gate, they're in the door thanks to the University of Utah. They have let them in. They have rubber stamped $500 million coming their way. And as of yet, the Big Ten hasn't done the same. We're talking about an entire conference with $2.4 billion on the table, but the PE is knocking on their door as well. And it's important to understand as we talk about this, as we dive deep, private equity does not stick around, my friends. They are not there for the long-term investment. They want to sell. So we're asking that question today, especially in college sports. Is private equity here for the fix or the flip? Let's break it down a little bit. Utah, what are they getting out of this, okay? So you've got Ocho Capital bringing in $500 million. This is licensing, hospitality, revenue opportunities. This is huge that they're letting them in the door and allowing them to change the face of what goes on behind in that organization. And as far as the Big Ten is concerned, literally an entire conference waiting to see if Michigan and USC will say yes to this and allow $2.4 billion to come into their orbit for 10% ownership of media rights. Why is Michigan and USC? What is the big reason they're not yet saying yes to this? It's interesting. It's actually because they want an out. They want to know that they're not locked into the conference if they ultimately want to get out. That's how much is changing in the face of NCAA football. Can you imagine the Big Ten Conference without Michigan? But that's actually what's at stake here, and it's all because of private equity. Moving on, let's deep dive a little bit more, okay, into private equity. What are we talking about here exactly? There's really like 5 of the biggest names you've ever heard in private equity. That's Blackstone, the aforementioned KKR, Apollo, the Carlyle Group, and Bain Capital. Bain Capital, by the way, you might remember the Mitt Romney days when he was a figure, a national institutional figure, and you think it's any coincidence that the University of Utah, where my man is from, is the one who accepted $500 million in private equity and opened the door for the rest of the Barbarians? I don't think so. Private equity works like this, guys. They have their own money, certainly, but they raise capital from limited partners. Tons of other capital, billions of dollars in capital, okay? And again, remember this, there is no forever hold ideal here, okay? They want to sell, and they usually sell within 3 to 10 years. And if you're fixed to sell, the decisions that private equity is making for the internal rate of return for their limited partners, those decisions are always about the bottom line. Moving on, you've got to think about what happened in 3 other major institutions in this country of ours. I'm talking about housing. Think about how Blackstone bought 200,000 single-family homes after the Great Recession of 2008, changed the face of how the rental market works and why we're actually in a big housing crisis right now with limited inventory. You've got to think about what went on in retail, to Toys R Us, to Sears, to even the dollar stores when private equity was allowed in and they slashed jobs and they leveraged debt to make the value look a lot better so they can resell, because that's all private equity does. And you think about Hollywood. Look, if you're a fan of Hollywood or you're not, and with the movies that get pumped out, there's a reason why everything's been consolidated and every 3rd movie that comes out is a superhero movie. That's just the reality of where we're at, because private equity is allowed in the door and it's all about the bottom line. Moving on. We have come to this notion that the money is good, the money is bad, but let's really size it up side by side, okay? There are some pros to this, obviously, right? Like, you bring money in, you're gonna have better facilities, you're gonna have, a bigger arena to play with, you're gonna have a bigger audience that's gonna be tuned in, because every dollar and every decision is gonna be made tilted towards generating that revenue. And even in the name, image, likeness portion of this, if that's where we're all going and this is here to stay, the top athletes, the cream of the crop, are going to have more money to play with, and some of the schools are going to have play, especially some of the smaller schools in some of these conferences. If they start letting private equity in, yeah, maybe the dean and athletic director are sleeping better at night because they know the coffers are filled with cash and they can play with the big boys. But this comes at a cost, like anything else, okay? The commercialization, you're gonna see so many more commercials come to this. You're gonna see increase in ticket prices, okay? You're gonna see just a real issue of what private equity needs to see. They're gonna be slashing jobs, they're gonna be trimming, balance sheets, because all they care about is selling the investment later on. And that brings us to the last part of the segment. Who do they sell to? That's really what this comes down to. Who's bigger than private equity? Again, you're either going to sell to another private equity firm, because that's all who has the deep pockets for this, or you're going to sell to the big boys worth billions and soon to be trillions of dollars when you're talking about ESPN and Apple, and maybe Amazon. And now you have media rights controlling school interest. And that's what you've got to think about here. Who's getting hurt, right? This isn't about the students. This isn't about the faculty. This isn't about the taxpayers who often fund public institutions. Now private equity's in the door, and they're the ones making the decision. You're going to sell to another global conglomerate made up of limited partners, or you're going to sell to a sovereign wealth fund. And I'll let you really think about what that means in terms of America. My friends, the barbarians at the gate, do we let them in the door? Well, it's too late. They've already been let in the door, and more are coming.
Do you think we'll do away with conferences altogether in the next several years? And will it be more NFL style?
I don't see them doing away with the conferences, and it's a reason, you see what the private equity is trying to do and come in and actually make an investment in the Big Ten, which is now like 20-something teams, because the notion is this is what America has latched onto, and they understand power conferences and the breakdown of the bowl system. I don't see that going away and becoming more of an NFL system anytime soon, and if private equity has their way, they're going to make the investment that they want for the media rights and get that rate of return so they can flip this and sell this. But a lot of that is contingent on schools staying in those conferences, including USC and Michigan, who are the holdouts right now as to why this Big Ten deal has not gone through yet. Like and subscribe for more financial-related deep dives on Beyond the Surface on the X-Rated Sports Network.